In this week's video, we're talking about the DJI Air 3 and my 6-month review, and essentially just why I purchased this drone, why it was an upgrade from the DJI Mini 2, and that it was time to get something bigger and better. And this pretty much ticked all the boxes and then some. So after purchasing the DJI 3, I was literally overwhelmed with just everything with it. Like, there were so many new things that I didn't have with the DJI Mini 2. So this is the reason why I thought I'll share my testing and just everything that I've been through with this drone. So essentially just think of it as a series of videos to get the most out of your DJI Air 3. So if you're new, hello, my name is Dimitrios and I create videos on drones, photography and everything in between. And it's a mix of entertaining and educational content. Subscribe to stay up to date for future videos. That being said, let's get on with my 6-month review of the DJI Air 3. So this is actually like my favorite drone thus far. For me, it's perfect for what it is. It fits right in the middle. It's not too light, it's not too heavy, it's transportable. Some of the main features for me purchasing this drone, first of all, is the C1 class label. So even though this is not relevant in Canada, as someone who does like to travel, and I did spend some time in Cyprus this year, this drone is a perfect fit for Europe. So that C1 label actually gives you a lot more freedom to fly in the A1, A3 category, and you can fly near people, especially if you put it in slow mode. Much of my testing was done in the mountains, but this is a fantastic drone. It's quiet. It's reasonably quiet, not as quiet as the Mini, but it's quiet. Also, the peace of mind of actually now having 360 avoidance, even though I don't trust them 100%, you should never trust 360 avoidance 100%, but just having that peace of mind was another factor of why I purchased this. So I didn't really have that on the Mini 2. And then the star of the show really is having the 2 focal lengths on the Air 3, the wide 24mm and the zoom 70mm focal length. And yeah, that 70mm is just something special. I love using that focal length for both photo and video. So those are probably the key features of why I purchased the DJI Air 3. Now, as for flight experience, there is a massive difference coming from the Mini 2 up to the Air 3. It's a lot bigger drone. It can handle wind a lot better as well. And it's actually very easy drone to fly. You'd think you might have a shock, but it is a fast drone, but it's a very easy drone, manageable drone. It's stable in the air. When you look at it hovering, it's rock solid in the air. And this is a quiet drone. Mainly I do fly in cities, and because there's a lot of ambient city noise, you know, cars, traffic, construction, you're not gonna hear this drone. This is not a nuisance drone. So especially if you're flying up at the 200, 400 altitude or 122 meters, no one's gonna hear this. You can hear this if you're in a quiet area like I was in Cyprus in the mountains. You can hear it at that height, but again, there's no one there, so it's not a problem. It's still a quiet drone. So yeah, very good flight experience with this. It's fast as well, which leads on to my next point. So performance with this drone. This is DJI's fastest drone. This thing is rapid. I don't think I've flown in sport mode yet. Normally, when I was flying the Mini 2 and there was some high winds and I was battling against the wind, you'd have to put it into sport mode to fly back. With this, you don't have that problem. I haven't really flown in very strong winds as of yet. I have been in high winds, but nothing that this couldn't handle. And even in normal mode, this thing is just rapid. The way it climbs, the way it moves forward. And when you are using the 70mm focal length and you're doing an orbit around the subject, this thing is moving and moving fast. Like, you don't realize it because it looks very slow on camera. But if you actually look at the drone, this thing is making moves. One of DJI's fastest drones. I actually consider this the Porsche 911 of drones, whereas the Mini 3, Mini 4, you're probably looking like a hot hatch. And then with the Mavic 3, you're probably looking at a Rolls Royce. And I think if I was to pick a car, if these were cars, I think many of you would want the 911 over the other 2 cars. Even though Rolls Royce is lovely, it's a good drone, the Mavic 3, and the Mini 3 4 Pro is a great little drone as well. But this fits my needs perfectly, just fitting right in the middle of everything that I need. Now let's move on to connectivity and signal strength. So DJI's Air 3 uses the latest 04 transmission system, and I have a feeling DJI are actually going to start shifting this across to their FPV lines. But this DJI Air 3 uses the latest 04 transmission system. I don't think I've ever had a problem with this system. It's been solid, even flying in cities where there's a lot of interference with signals bouncing off other walls and maybe going behind buildings. I probably lost signal once when I was in the village doing a hyperlapse test or waypoints test. I was just flying it straight though, and it just lost signal. But that wasn't, it just returned to home, like no problem. I had visual line of sight because I could see it when I was in Cyprus. But yeah, the signal system on this is fantastic. It's also on the Mini 4 Pro. There isn't anything wrong with the 03, but this is just a level up. And even with the DJI RC2 here, with having these two antennas just helps. And this is a fantastic remote, and I'll come on to this in just a moment as well. Now we move on to the cameras and capabilities of this drone. So like I've said earlier, having the two focal lengths is probably one of my favorite features on this. I'm glad DJI did this. We all have this on our phones where we have like a triple camera set here where we have different focal lengths. Now we have the same here with these drones. Other than the Mini series, the Air 3 and the Mavic have these focal lengths, and it just adds another dimension to your photos and videos. And I have expressed this in my videos, which I discussed very early on when I bought this drone. It comes in both 12 and 48 megapixels. It films in normal, HLG and D-Log-M. It has a night mode as well, even though I prefer just using D-Log-M. And then just the image quality that comes out of this is a level up. I know that people have said that this is a smaller image sensor than the Air 2S, which was a 1-inch sensor shooting at 5K. This is a 1/1.3, but it does have a stacked sensor, and this is a very sensitive sensor. Like at night to get long exposure shots, I found that I had to use an ND8, ND16 to get those long 8-second exposure photos to get the lovely light trails. So yeah, this is a great sensor. You can even shoot in 2.7K vertical. So if you're someone who likes to do vertical video, there's that option for you. Not for me, I'm always gonna shoot horizontal. But yeah, this is a fantastic camera here, and I can't wait to see what other improvements DJI can bring in the future. Now let's go on about battery life and charging. So this drone is claimed by DJI to have a 46 minute flight time. That's on paper. In the real world, I'm probably getting about 35, and that's till about 30 to 26%. I never fly to zero. You should never fly to zero. Should always come back around 30 to 20%. But that is a very good flight time in comparison to when I was flying the DJI Mini 2. I'm obviously going to compare to this because it's the drone that I had, and this was getting me 20-minute flight times with its theoretical 30-minute flight times, whatever this had, I can't remember. But yeah, this thing will sit in the air happily. You feel like you're flying forever, and then you realize that you still have another 56% of battery. I'm like, wow, I've been up here for a long time. I've caught a lot of photo and video, and I'm still on the first battery. So trying to kill the other two batteries is hard. And the only way to do this really is if you actually use waypoints or hyperlapses, which actually do take a lot of time to capture. So when you do set the waypoints and hyperlapses, your position points, you literally just let the drone do its thing, and you can be there for 10, 15 minutes waiting for the drone to finish. So you could do 2 to 3 hyperlapses, and then you'll end up using the battery. But that's very good to have a longer flight time. Really impressed with that. And I also impressed with the DJI, actually, let me get it. I'm also impressed with this charging case DJI have here. This is the new one, and it actually has an accumulation power charge here. So let's say you've used all 3 of your batteries and each have 30% left. All you have to do is just hold down the power button, and that turns on the accumulation charge. And what it does is it figures out which of these batteries has the most power, and then it empties whatever 2 into that one battery and fills it up. So at least you can get another flight, a 4th flight of that. May not be 100% full, but it's gonna be long enough to get you a 4th flight. So I actually love this functionality. That is a great move there with DJI. Ah, I just realized, damn it, man. That is my fault because I'm in a rush to watch the football. Right, storage and accessories. So the DJI Air 3 does have an SD card slot here, and I don't know if you can see that. So that's the micro SD card I use, it's a Lexar 128 gigabytes, and it also has an 8 gig internal memory. So if you did forget your memory card, which you shouldn't do, you should always keep it inside your drone, that's what I do, then at least you have 8 gigabytes of storage, and that should be enough to get some photo and video. But bear in mind, the photo files are large, and so are the video files when you're shooting at 4K. The DJI Air 3 also comes in this lovely pouch here, and this is definitely an upgrade from the Mini 2 that I had. You have this magnetic latch here. So it is magnetic and it clips on. And then you open it up. You have this lovely top pouch up here, so you can put maybe spare props, your cables, anything you want to put in here. And inside you have a front slim pouch, so normally you can put your ND filters in there. So if you have a set of ND filters, you can literally just slide them in to the front of this package. Nice slim profile. You have a pocket here for the drone, and then you have one for the batteries and then one for the controller. See, everything fits lovely inside, and you still even have a little bit of space at the top here. So if you do have your spare props, you can literally put them in there. You have a shoulder strap here, which is adjustable. And you even have a slim pouch at the back. So maybe if you have like drone licensing or paperwork, you can shove them here at the back. It's a nice slim pocket. Maybe an iPad you could probably squeeze in. And then you can put this over your shoulder. And there we go. That's a DJI Air 3 carry case there. And if you saw the week before, I covered the LPR mist filter, and even last week I covered long exposure photography with the ND 1000, 2000, and these will help elevate your shots, pun unintended. And before we move on to some of the things I'm not a fan of with the DJI 3, I want to give a quick talk about the DJI RC2. I do prefer this than the old style where you used to connect your phone or your iPad. Just having the screen in front of you there, it's a lot easier, and then it frees up your phone that you could use for filming yourself or B-roll, or just even having it in for emergency cases, like if something goes wrong, you have your phone free and available and it's not taking up for usage on flying the drone. Yeah, so I do recommend, if you're gonna get the DJI 3, pick up the pack with the RC2 rather than the RCN2. But let's move on to some of the things that I'm not a fan of. I want DJI improved after using this drone for 6 months. Now, this really isn't a negative for me, but I know a lot of you would like to have this option, but the DJI Air 3 doesn't shoot 4K vertical video. That is the mini series only, because it can rotate its camera. Now this can shoot 2.7K, which in my eyes, I think is plenty for social media. To me, that is not a downside. That wasn't gonna hold me back from buying this drone. I know some of you would want the full quality, but then you just go for the Mini 3 or Mini 4 Pro, but then you're not gonna get the performance or the 2 focal lengths of this drone, which is definitely an upgrade. Like for me to go to a Mini 4, I consider that a downgrade. And I did mention this earlier as well, that people weren't a fan of this being a smaller sensor than the Air 2S, being 1/1.3 instead of 1, and it shoots 4K, not 5K. Again, that to me wasn't a big loss because I came from the Mini 2 and I didn't have the Air 2S. But people have said, who have flown both, have said that with this new technology, with the stack sensor, the images are coming out a lot crisper, and it is notably different from the Air 2S. It would have been nice if we had the 5K as well, but we'll see in the future. So this isn't really a flaw in the actual hardware itself, more the software. As standard, when you're flying the DJI Air 3, you have digital zoom. Now I've turned this off because I don't like digital zoom. It degrades image quality. Why would you want to do that? I've already adjusted this wheel here, which is normally your digital zoom, to be exposure value, and you can adjust your exposure on the fly. I want DJI to give us the ability to switch between this 24 and 70mm by flicking this dial rather than having to tap on the screen. That will be far quicker than having, because my hand is already on here. My hand is by the trigger to take photo. Now I have to take my hands off the sticks to be able to click on the focal length, when I could just use this and carry on flying using the sticks of the controller. So yeah, not a flaw of the drone, it's just a software thing. I know DJI could easily do this. It doesn't have variable aperture like the Mavic that is secured for that drone. So this is a fixed aperture. So the 24 is fixed at 1.7 and then the 70mm is fixed at 2.8. However, if you wanted the workaround where you have that depth of field look, we can cover this in a future video where you can use the lens blur function in Lightroom, and I will do this in upcoming videos where we do a before and after or photo editing. Now, another drawback here is that the DJI RC2 is Android based. Now, DJI love iPhone, they love to be compatible with iPhone, but they've chosen Android operating system for the DJI RC2, and it's not the most intuitive. Like it's fine when you're in the Fly app. Once you're within the app, that's fine. But when you're trying to access through the Android app, for instance, transferring files, I know a lot of people have had trouble with this. It's not that easy, and it's a bit weird. Like this has an SD card slot, and it's not really needed because whenever you screen record, they're saved to the controller and not the SD card. So now when I want to get the footage off, having an SD card is actually quite pointless. Like, what is it for? So I wouldn't recommend buying one. Every time I want to offload the screen recordings, I just use Android file transfer. I just use the app and it does work with the latest version of OS. I literally did it the other day when I flew. But yeah, it's not intuitive, and I wish they could make adjustments just to make it a little bit better and a little bit smoother, and having screen recording saved to the SD card, which makes more sense rather than the internals of the controller. The final one really is that when you buy the DJI Air 3, it doesn't come with a charging brick. It comes with a USB cable, but most of us have our own charging bricks now, so it's not the end of the world. DJI do give you the option to buy one. When you go to buy the Air 3, there's a 65 watt and 100 watt version. I actually opted for a different one, so I went for the Anker, the Gang Prime. This is a 120 watt charger. It has two USB-C and a USB-A slot here. This is a fast charger. So I think the other day, each battery is around 30%. It takes about 60 minutes per battery. So we're looking about a 3-hour total charge time to charge all 3 batteries. This is in the link in the description box below if you want to pick one of these up. And I use this for other devices, not solely for the DJI Air 3. Use to charge my iPhone, the controller, camera gear. You can use it for anything. This will charge your MacBook. So if you have a MacBook and you want to charge it really fast, this thing's going to charge up really quick. So before we end this video, who is this drone actually for? Well, if you still have a Mini 2 and you want something bigger and better, then the Air 3 is going to be perfect for that. If you want to avoid all the licensing, because you are going to need licenses, especially if you're here in Canada or the UK, then maybe you want to stick to the Mini series like the Mini 3 or the Mini 4. However, if you're someone that's looking for a bigger drone, maybe you want the 2 focal lengths, maybe you want the better performance, then yeah, the Air 3, like I said, is going to be the better drone. You will noticeably feel the difference, especially in quality when you pick them up. One feels like a cheap plastic toy, the other one feels like an actual drone. Okay, that was a brain dump. I literally just had notes on my laptop and just discussed what I think about this drone since I've had it. Remember to check out the playlist of all the videos that I've made and covered on this drone with all the different features, literally explaining how they work and just my testing and findings. That was the whole point of buying this drone and making this series. I've had a lot of fun flying this drone. I'm just gonna want to enjoy flying it now. If there is still questions or anything you want to learn about the DJI 3, put it in the comment section down below. That being said, subscribe for more videos on drones, photography, and everything in between. And I'll see you in the next video. And YouTube recommends you should check out this one next. Peace.